And we are back. It is just 24 hours until Gareth Southgate names his England squad for the upcoming World Cup. So today, I am going to be picking the team that I would be going for, the squad that I would be going for going into the Qatar World Cup. Why we're doing this ahead of the Premier League games this weekend, I'm not really sure, because in my opinion, players that get picked for any of their respective national teams are now going to have a slight eye on their World Cup squad, so they're not going to be giving it 100% just to risk not getting injured. So a bit weird that we're doing it before the final games, but squads will be finalised, of course, on Monday. But given the fact that the squad will be announced tomorrow, I thought best to do this video today. And the way I'm going to do this is with this template that I have built here, and this Excel spreadsheet will be available for you in the description and in the top comment of this video. I'd love to know what you guys are going to be picking for your teams as well. And what I've done is I've built out a whole bunch of different formations in the different slides, as you can see here, so you can pick whatever team you feel is most appropriate for the England squad. I've also included on the right hand side a whole bunch of players that Southgate has either picked, used, or just, I think, have had a good season this season and probably deserve a shout of getting into the England squad. So even the most obscure ones are on that right-hand side, I would say. So everything you would need to build your squad, everything that I need to build my squad. And yeah, I think the last thing to say is I have included Reece James and Ben Chilwell. From what I've seen, it looks like neither of them are going to be included in the squad. However, I have seen reports that the Chelsea physio has said that they would be available for the latter stages of the tournament if England got there. Whether or not you would still pick them based off of that information is completely up to you, and that is why I've included them in the potential selections. And of course, Kyle Walker and Calvin Phillips, I've also put one question mark on, because as it stands, Pep Guardiola has said that they should both be available. So that is the overall process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly run through my starting 11, then my backup 11, and then go for the 4 reserves, because it is a 26-man squad. Fairly simple enough. As you can see, I'm going to be going for a 4-2-3-1. I think right now that is probably the best formation England should be running going into the World Cup. I'm certainly not in favour of going for 5 at the back again, even though that is what it is looking most likely to be. But this is what we're going to do. Starting 11, backup 11, and the 4 reserves. So let's just start with the goalkeeper, and I am going to go for Nick Pope in goal. In my opinion, the best goalkeeper, arguably in the entire Premier League so far this season. They've been outstanding, Newcastle, defensively, and he has been a big part of that. And speaking of Newcastle, the right back is, of course, going to be Kieran Trippier. I don't really think I actually need to say any more about that. I think if Reece James was fit, I'd probably still have him ahead of Trippier, but right now, Trippier absolutely has to be the right back going into the World Cup. My right centre-back is going to be a player that has actually been playing right back this season for Arsenal, and that is going to be Ben White. Partnering him, I am going to go for Fikayo Tomori, and at left back, I am going to go for Luke Shaw. Now, I'll be honest with you, right now, I think there is a chance that neither White or Tomori even get in Gareth Southgate's squad tomorrow, which would be an absolute travesty in my opinion. I am literally putting them in my starting 11. I think White has more chance than Tomori, but it would not surprise me one bit to see Tomori omitted from the 26-man squad. On to the 2-man midfield then, and I don't think there's going to be any surprises over my 2-man midfield. It's more than likely everyone's 2-man midfield going into this tournament, and that is, of course, going to be Rice and Bellingham. I don't think I need to say anything more about them. The front 3 behind Harry Kane might be a little bit more controversial. I'm going to go for Saka, Foden and Rashford off of Kane. I know a lot of people would probably put Raheem Sterling in there. I don't think many would put Rashford in their starting lineup, but I am a bit biased. I'm a Manchester United fan, and I just think Rashford's form over the last few weeks has been absolutely outstanding, and I think he thoroughly deserves to be starting for England on that left-hand channel. Having Foden and Saka as well supporting Kane, I just think it takes a lot of pressure off of Harry Kane. He's going to be heavily demanded on to both create and score goals in this team, especially the way Southgate will more than likely play. So I think having Saka, Foden and Rashford all off of him is going to make a much better balance to the team. So that would be my starting lineup going into every game of the World Cup. I'm not going to make changes based off of who I'm playing against. This would be my starting lineup if everyone is fit. Let's go through who I've got as my backups. So my second goalkeeper would be Aaron Ramsdale. My backup right back, I would be taking Kyle Walker. I think even if there is a chance he is fully fit, I think you have to take Kyle Walker. He offers so much, either as a out-and-out right back, a defensive right back, or as a third right centre back in a back 3 if injuries and whatever meant that we had to go to a back three, I think you have to include Kyle Walker. My first backup centre-back is going to be Harry Maguire, and I don't care what any of you say about Harry Maguire. I think currently he is still England's third best centre-back. Like the other options available, the likes of Eric Dyer and Tyrone Mings that may actually be called up, Connor Cody, in my opinion, they are not as good as Harry Maguire. And again, I know I'm Manchester United biased, but his performances for England speak for themselves, and I think he has to be in the squad. My other backup centre-back is then going to be John Stones. I don't think there's any surprises in that. I think Stones would probably make most of your starting 11s, but for me, he would just be a backup. And my final left-back is going to be Sessegnon, who I don't think will be called up for the main team. I don't think he will call up another left-back to replace Chilwell. I think it will be Shaw, and then Trippier will be the alternative left-back. But if we're playing 5 at the back, then he may just play Saka at left wing-back again. So I don't think a backup left-back will be called up. But for me, I would call up Sessegnon if we did need to go to a 5 at the back. And that's where, like I say, Kyle Walker would then slot in as a right centre-back, and Sessegnon would play left wing-back. Into the midfield, and you might be wondering where he was. I didn't pick him at right back, but I'm actually going to put Trent Alexander-Arnold as my backup midfielder. I watched him in that Tottenham game the other day, and he was getting crucified at right back once again, but every single time he stepped into midfield, he was creating so many problems. And I just think that's where he should be playing. That's where I'd be playing him in this England team. Potentially even a starting place if he performs well in there. So for me, Trent Alexander-Arnold is brought in as a backup midfielder. And my other backup midfielder is going to be James Ward-Prowse. I know a lot of you would probably go for Jordan Henderson, but for me, I've seen nothing of Henderson this season. He's barely played, and when he hasn't really done anything. So I think for me, Ward-Prowse is your most likely. He's obviously our best dead ball specialist as well. So I think Ward-Prowse should definitely be in and around the squad to some capacity, just in case a situation requires his services. My backup right wing, begrudgingly, I am still going to go for Raheem Sterling. I was very close to not putting Sterling in the squad at all, but I think, again, his performances for England, kind of like Maguire, his performances for England speak for themselves. He has been a clutch player for England over the last few tournaments, so I think he has to be in the squad, but he certainly wouldn't be in my starting lineup. Someone who absolutely has to be in the squad, and I still fear that I don't think he'll get in, is going to be James Maddison. He absolutely needs to be in the squad, and definitely even pushing a starting spot the way he's played this season. So for me, Maddison is absolutely in. And no surprises that my left wing is, of course, Jack Grealish. My other striker, my backup striker, if this was just going to be a 23-man squad, would be Callum Wilson. I think his form over the last few weeks has been absolutely phenomenal. He thoroughly deserves a spot in the England squad, and he would be my backup striker. So that just leaves 4 positions left. So we're going to go for a backup goalkeeper, a backup defender, a backup midfielder, and a backup striker. Pretty simple. My backup goalkeeper is going to be Dean Henderson. I am not picking Jordan Pickford. I do have a slight agenda against Jordan Pickford, I know, but for me, he's not really performed that great for Everton this season. I think all 3 goalkeepers that I've put in have performed much better for their clubs respectively. And going forward, I think these should be the 3 goalkeepers anyway, as Pickford is slightly older than the others as well. My backup defender is going to be Joe Gomez. Again, I think a lot of you would probably have him in your main squad anyway, so for me, he is definitely the best option to bring in as my 5th choice. Again, comfortable at playing right centre-back or even at right-back if required, if we're playing a back 3 or a back 4. It doesn't really matter. He's very suitable to both. And yeah, I think those are our best 5 centre-backs between White, Tomori, Maguire, Stones and Gomez. I wouldn't have anyone else in the squad. My backup midfielder, again, probably isn't going to be a surprise. That is going to be Mason Mount. Has dropped off a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but made a good start to the season and should have a place in the squad, in my opinion. And the final question comes down to the backup striker, and it is really between 2 options. It is either Ivan Toney or Tammy Abraham. I know a couple of others have been pushing, the likes of Danny Ings, and, well, that's probably it, really. Danny Ings, Ollie Watkins have had a rough start at Aston Villa, and Solanke's not really done enough for me at Bournemouth this season. So it really is between Toney and Abraham, and I'm just going to go off a little bit of Premier League bias. I've not seen a lot of Tammy Abraham this season. He's not been getting the goals he was getting last season, and Ivan Toney has been playing reasonably well for Brentford. So my final player is going to be Ivan Toney. And that is going to be my squad. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Drop a like if you think this is a good team. Let me know if you disagree with any of the players that I've put in. Let me know who you would have put in instead. And of course, like I said, download the Excel spreadsheet that I've put in the description of this video. Build your own team. Share it around with your friends. Let me know who you are going to be going for. thank you very much for watching. I hope and pray that Southgate does pick a good squad tomorrow, but I have a very good feeling probably nearly half of the players I've picked here probably won't get picked, but we shall see. Come on, England, and I will see you very soon.